York soon.
Thanks.
Well, our next guest says
Okay.
CEOs and other fat cats like Wayne make too much and too often do it at the expense of everyone else. He is Rich Benjamin, Senior Fellow at Demos. Is that right, Rich?
I very much believe that, David. You know, people who are in the Occupy Wall Street movement don't object to being number one. In fact, we very much believe that for America to retain our status as a number one country, we can't have these big gaps of inequality where CEOs make more than 300 times
Well, what about in sports?
the average worker.
What about in sports?
But the difference is, with CEOs, they are in charge of the economy. In terms of...
No, they're in charge. No, they're not in charge of the economy. They're in charge of a particular business. And you better believe that sports is a particular business. If you're Mr. Pujols and you're making millions and millions of dollars, much more than a gamekeeper is at the stadium, isn't that just as bad? If you think that there's a problem with this big division between the people at the top and the people at the bottom?
What we're talking about is, we're talking about the regulation of the CEOs, we're talking about publicly traded companies and how they're not
But Rich, you're not answering the question. If something's not right in one area, it has to be not right in other areas. What about sports? What about Tom Cruise? What about Hollywood? Tom Cruise, do you think that there is as big a differential between the amount of money that Tom Cruise makes for a picture and the amount of money that a grip makes for working on that picture?
Here's the difference. The difference is, with the CEOs, the productivity of the workers has increased since the last 30 years. And meantime, their wages are stagnating, their wages are declining, and we're left in this rut of an economy where people treated our economy like a casino.
Maybe it's happened with grips.
And
maybe
there's no
it's happened
accountability.
with the people that are working in the sports stadiums, et cetera. I mean, the fact is that we strive in this country to make as much as we can of ourselves. In some cases, that doesn't necessarily mean a monetary return. In some cases, it could mean being famous or whatever. But what's wrong with that? I mean, what's wrong with getting as much as you possibly can from your situation?
What's wrong with that is when people are made to suffer. What's wrong with that is nobody has been held accountable.
You think, well, how is it that
for
people
all
are made
the
to
malfeasance
suffer
on Wall Street? Nobody
But
has been
how
held
is it that people are made to suffer as a result of other people making good?
But all the people who are making all this money in sports and in Hollywood, they have no responsibility in what has gone on with the economy. People are
they have as much responsibility as a CEO that's making a product. They are making a product, an entertainment product, a sports product, whatever. If you're making a product, shouldn't you be able to get as much for that product as possible?
Look, no, we're not objecting to money. We're not objecting to excellence. What we're objecting is to a differential in the economy.
How about the differential between the union bosses and the union members? That's a huge differential as well. Are you opposed to that?
Well, that's a separate question.
No, it's the same thing. Again, if individuals are striving for the most that they can get, you either appreciate that striving for excellence, that striving for as much as you can possibly get in whatever way you want to get it, or you're against it, whether it's in the union field, whether it's sports, whether it's entertainment, or whether it's business.
Yeah, no, what we're talking about is holding the CEOs accountable, holding the economy accountable.
Well, they are held accountable. If they do a bad job, they get fired.
That's not always the case.
Not always the case, but it's not always the case with Tom Cruise. Sometimes he comes out with a bad picture, and he still gets paid anyway. We may not like it.
The profits may suffer.
That's the rule that they play with.
No, the profits may suffer. What we're talking about here is the general. You know what? Let's take this. You're a private nurse in Wisconsin. You've invested your money in a pension. Okay, because of the malfeasance on Wall Street, you've paid the bailouts for all these banks. Your pension has cratered. You've been busting a hump for 30 years. Your productivity has gone up. Meanwhile,
particularly in the past 3 years, when we've had a Democrat in charge of the presidency and the Congress
the CEO of the health insurance company, the CEO of the private hospital that you're working at, which may not have had a huge profitability increase, we've seen their salaries multiplied by tenfold. Now, how do you account for that? The profits haven't necessarily gone up commensurate to what the CEO is being paid. And that's why people are frustrated.
All right. By the way, nurses in the United States are paid about 3 times as much as nurses in the socialized system in England. So the question is, what you were saying begs the question of what would be a preferable system, sort of like what I think was Winston Churchill said, this is a terrible system, but it's better than all the others. That's
capitalism's great, but we also don't want to be like Brazil, where
we don't want to be like socialist countries, even
where the
mild
CEOs make
socialism like
hugely
England.
More than average people.
But Rich, you're a good guy. We appreciate you coming in. We've gone way over. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, David.
By the way, I see you have your name emblemized on your shirt there.
My grandfather used to do that.
Okay, good for you, Rich. We appreciate you coming in. Thanks a lot. Well, Ronald Reagan was burned on a tax deal, got the hikes, but never saw